So Napoleon's this war general. He's from Corsica, French colony, or part of France, sort of this island in the Mediterranean. And he will work his way up in the military and will lead the military on these military victories. And so then he will establish himself now as the leader. And he will be he'll write a new constitution now, and his new government will be called the Consulate. And the Consulate will have 3 consuls. The first consul will have virtually all the power, and the first consul will be held by Napoleon. So he'll be first consul. And so he writes up this new constitution, and then he gives it to the people and has a up or down vote on this new government. And this is known as a plebiscite, when people get to vote yes or no on a law. Plebiscite. And so the people will vote overwhelmingly in favor of it, mainly because there's an alternative. You're either yes or we don't know what. And so the plebiscite passes, and so Napoleon now has popular support for this new government because people voted for it. Now, one of the things the consulate will do is issue the Concordat. The Concordat means agreement in French. And what the Concordat is, when we talk about it when talking about Napoleon, then the Concordat is the agreement between the government and the Catholic Church. So, for the first time since the civil constitution of the clergy, way back in 1790, the Catholic Church will be allowed to practice freely in France. Which seems like a victory for the Catholics, but it's not entirely. Napoleon allows religious freedom for Catholics. He will pay the salaries of Catholic priests, so the state will continue to support the church. But Catholicism will not be the official religion of France. Okay? So the official language of the Concordat says that Catholicism is the religion of the majority of France, but it does not say it's the religion of everyone or the official religion of France. And also, the government will continue, because they're paying the wages of priests, the government will continue to have a role in the church. And so for those refractory clergy that were underground, leading their congregations, they're now going to have to join the church, the officially Pope-approved Catholic Church, that Napoleon and the French government will have a large amount of influence in. So this is important because it will end that sort of religious divide, and therefore this means that Catholics will no longer have a reason to oppose the French revolutionary government. And so this will bring a lot of support for Napoleon. Now, Napoleon's domestic reforms, one of his domestic reforms is this idea of the careers being open to talent. This is the idea that instead of careers being given to people based on their noble lineage, titles, or whatnot, careers are based on merit, on how talented someone is. And so this is very popular amongst the bourgeoisie, and many bourgeois educated people will work for Napoleon and will support him. And perhaps the most important thing done during the Consulate period is the issuance of a Napoleonic Code, a new set of laws that will replace all the laws that have been issued by all those previous governments, and going backwards from Napoleon, the Directory, the National Convention, the Legislative Assembly, the National Assembly, the Ancien Regime, and Louis XVI and his predecessors. All those laws are all mixed up right now, and so the Napoleonic Code will be a new code of laws that will replace all the old ones. In the Napoleonic Code, the basic rights that are laid out in the Declaration of the Rights of Man are restated and protected. So therefore, there will be a right to property. and there will be basic civil rights. Everyone will be treated equally under the law. But the Napoleonic Code also definitely represents the interests of the bourgeois class. For example, workers and people are not allowed to form unions. They're not allowed to form workers' organizations. That's clearly, expressly stated in the Napoleonic Code. As is a restriction on the rights of women. And when we talk about women in a later review date, we'll go through the role and ideas that women are playing more thoroughly in the French Revolution. But the Napoleonic Code will limit women's rights. For example, it will give the male the ownership over things. Women, it will be much harder for them to get a divorce. And so it will restrict women's rights much more than we saw previously. And most importantly, the Napoleonic Code will be a model of laws that basically are at their core value, except for the whole women thing, maybe the workers thing, at their core value are liberal, right, granting rights to people, protecting people's rights. And this will be a model then that will spread with Napoleon's army. So he'll spread the Napoleonic Code to the areas that he conquers. Now, Napoleon then uses some challenges against him to declare himself emperor in 1804. One other thing I want to say about Napoleon is he's not completely liberal, obviously, and enlightened, right? And we had this debate. Napoleon has censorship over the media. Napoleon imprisons political dissidents or opponents of his regime, right? Famously, he has a prince executed because that prince might have a claim to the French throne, and so he has him executed even though that prince did nothing wrong and was not claiming the French throne. And so he sort of uses force against opponents, imprisonment, and censorship. The Napoleonic Empire, basic things, France's borders increased. And one of the maps in the review section on geography, which is on page, 53 of this study guide book, on page 53. And so one of those maps is the boundaries of Napoleon's Europe. And basically, he'll expand the actual borders of France to the Rhine River, like Louis XIV imagined, up into the Netherlands, and down into Italy. And then he'll reorganize the rest of Europe. For example, he'll create a Kingdom of Italy, or a reorganized Kingdom of the Rhine in central Germany, or he'll reconstitute Poland and create a Grand Duchy of Warsaw for Poland. And so he'll redraw the rest of the boundaries of Europe. He'll replace all of these lords and people that controlled the other parts of Europe with close people to him. For example, his brother will rule one area, and other family members will rule places like Italy and Spain. And he'll defeat Austria and Prussia, which remain independent, and so therefore don't undergo those political changes and legal changes, but will be cut down in size, and will certainly be humbled by Napoleon and will be forced to be his allies. So the word nepotism there, nepotism refers to when you give certain privileges to your family. And so Napoleon puts in charge of these different states that he conquers and creates, he puts in charge family members. Now the Treaty of Tilsit is made in 1807 perhaps. Basically this is an agreement between the French Emperor Napoleon and the Russian Tsar. And the Russian Tsar is Alexander I. And so the Treaty of Tilsit is an agreement between them that they will be at peace.